All right, guys, welcome to Robot Bootcamp. It is Monday, March 30th at 6:10 p.m. We gave 10 minutes for the slackers to get to boot camp. Now all of you stop and give me 10 robot push-ups. All right, we want to make sure that we are onboarding newbies every single time. And then I guess we've only got Ned Franklin as a newbie. Welcome, Ned. Just so you know, we are trying to get 50 to 100 people to do Robot Bootcamp, where Renaissance Jax is pulling some really amazing 3D design and manufacturing tutorials, packaging everything together in such a way where you get a challenge, and then you get a team, and then the team competes to do all the challenges, and then different people will be awarded things like Robot Bootcamp branded swag, shirts, stickers, yada, yada. Eventually the goal is to build our own challenges and blast out to the universe to try and get people on a subscription model for taking part in epic design challenges in exchange for prizes. With that said, I want to give everybody a cool link to a video that I will talk about, and you guys can watch it after. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I got a call on Thursday from UF Health, and they have asked Renaissance Jax to modify a nurse's cart and bedside table to be a remote control robot to bring patients medicine and an iPad in the middle of the new COVID-19 wing going into the hospitals. And I said, absolutely, but you're going to have to pay for it. They said, I would love to see a prototype, and then we will probably buy different robots for you to keep our nurses safe. And so I want to work with you guys to build the first units in 3D, or at least come up with some prototypes of how to manipulate it. And I want you to watch this video because these kids used VEX components, and we can do better than that. And so I'm telling you that we are going to have to open door handles with our robot and have at least 2 cameras, one forward facing and one that is left and right facing. And so we're going to need to select video sources, and it's going to be remote controlled. I've got a friend with a Wi-Fi-enabled, very accurate GPS device that he built for skydiving purposes, but is also designed to assist nurses and medical equipment get around a place. And so I want to make this thing this week. And so whatever you guys see on this video, I want you to start designing that. But I really need everybody to do every single one of their Titan components. Because I've got to line in to the hospitals to get our prototypes straight into the hospitals ASAP. And so I promised UF Health that we would have a working remote control prototype cart pusher or cart adapter at the end of this week. And so whatever you guys design, I can build and tweak and modify. And good luck, everybody. You have 24 hours to come up with something epic. And just like that, Robot Bootcamp just evolved like crazy.
What's the cart that we're pushing?
Well, look at the thing in the video, and then I'm going to get the actual thing that we've got here in Jacksonville. So yeah, just intuit from that video a bunch of different things that could be helpful. But other than that, Ned Franklin, I hope you did everything that was asked of you in that one pager.
Oh yeah, I got that email at 4:30 today.
Cool.
So I did most of it, but not all of it.
Killer. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, basically the first time we did this, which was a week ago today, we got on for 15 minutes, walked everybody through the Titans of CNC Academy, and then the building blocks outline, and then everybody got their account started up, and then in 24 hours, some people had done the first 9 models in the building block series. And so given that you've not done Fusion 360 before, I would anticipate you to be able to do the first 3 or 4 before tomorrow. But I also want you to recruit other kids from your team and other kids from Douglas Anderson to join this project, because I think that everybody's going to get ridiculously good jobs after the fact. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, bro. Highly recommend everybody watch that video. And other than that, I got nothing, because I'm going to keep on recruiting people. And if you guys want to take time and watch that video and then talk about it, why don't you take 5 minutes and do that, and I'll wait. How's that sound?
Sounds cool.
Is this supposed to have constant camera feedback, or are you going to be able to look at it while you're driving it?
Say that one more time.
Are we?
Oh, yeah, you'll be so the nurses will be like at a nurse's station, and I think the goal is to be able to control it like through a screen.
So we need computer vision.
Yeah. All right. Is the video done for everybody?
But I get the basic gist. So there's all kinds of different ways to go about this. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but we don't need to overthink it. We need to make something work this week.
Mm-hmm.
We can put a laundry list. We should develop a list of everything that is desirable on this thing, and then start throwing it at it.
So I mean, are you thinking mostly custom-made parts? Are you thinking stock parts? What's your feeling on all that kind of stuff?
The fastest way possible. Like I was thinking about starting with a wheelchair base because I have 2 of them. But for the little TV dinner tray, making a little Vex or frame is the bomb. I like what they did. But for something that's a little more robust.
It's a clamping mechanism to get a very simple robot drive base on, and then you just have to deal with, whether you want to have, what kind of drive, what kind of autonomous versus driving options do you need to do? Do you need to put a gyroscope on to deal with making navigation simpler, or being able to auto true to?
Is a robot? Is it just going to be delivering medicine and food to the patients, or is it going to be like injecting shots and stuff?
No injections. It's literally just to get feedback from people. Take an iPad with some questionnaires on there and video, FaceTime, stuff like that. Take people medicine and food without a human having to go into the room.
Or even if it's something, I mean, the other question is it something to be able to, if they don't have active monitoring for things like, monitoring, giving someone a thermometer to take their temperature, can that be delivered in a way so that they avoid contact? So whether it's just basically a way to give a tray to somebody without walking in the room, that sounds like what you're being asked to help provide.
That is correct. So it does not have to be complicated, but I already think that it must 100% be able to open a door.
So having so I guess 2 different clamping mechanisms, one to clamp a drive base to the bottom, and then another one that would be able to clamp an arm to the vertical support methodology. And then the question is, then you deal with the physics of making sure you don't dump the rolling tray as you're able to open the door.
Yeah, man. All of those ideas I want written up in a document.
I mean, I'm just thinking if we're trying to reuse as much.
I'm gonna make a Google form for input on this thing and send it out to everybody through the chat. How about that?
Okay.
So in addition to following the seed that these guys in Abilene, Texas did, you want to additionally be able to make it operate open door handles to, again, avoid more contact points.
It also depends on the type of door that we have to open, whether it's a handle or a push.
They're going to probably be individual
it'll be a handle.
Either pull down or pull up to open. So but that's a good thing for us to ask. The hospital is there a general door handle you use on all of your doors? If the answer is yes, awesome. If the answer is no, then in this particular floor of the building that you're dedicating for the response center, how they work, can you shoot us a 5-second video of someone opening, closing it, and the requirements for that?
To me, it seems like there's kind of a big downside to the design I saw in the video, and it's that if it's RC controlled, and you're having it operate out of your point of view, your only reference is the view that you have through FaceTime, which doesn't take into account like the lower level. You're going to be bumping into stuff with the wheels because you don't there's a big blind spot if you're only viewing it through the iPad.
We're not using it, so the iPad is going to be separate from the computer vision system on the robot.
Oh, okay.
The iPad is
just assume that we have computer vision capabilities.
Where would we position the cameras? Where would be the best spot?
I think we need multiple cameras, dude. I mean, but again, I'm about to send you guys a survey, and I need you to put all your thoughts into this thing. So keep asking questions and discuss amongst yourselves.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of ultrasonic or infrared because your scope of vision is always, you have no control over that. So is there a simpler way for, without lots of video processing to manage collision?
We'd also need a smoother drivetrain because if the robot's carrying like drinks or something, you don't want it to have to stop suddenly and the drink go flying.
I think that's a programming dilemma versus, I don't know. That's a good point, because if you're trying to worry about collision avoidance and you stop suddenly, and if you always say that you have a 2-inch roll of deceleration, then how do you work that in? Is that a problem, or is that a training issue on the human side of the operator?
Yeah, to go back to your point, I don't think you need anything besides a camera. Like, you wouldn't need infrared or sonar, etc., because it's human driving it. You're not trying to code it autonomously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just 2 cameras would be sufficient as far as that goes. And then smoothness in the drivetrain, like you were saying, again, just got to know how to drive it. Stabilization, as far as that goes, I think it's just you drive it smoothly. We need to know if there's like a bump on the doorstep when you go over. That stuff like that's important.
Oh, you mean
all right? I put that feedback form. I put that feedback form in the chat. Everybody click that link and then fill it out under your own time. I'm kind of upset, dude. We did not have a huge amount of people in this one. And think about how many people want to get in on this design, probably. I would think a lot. What a cool opportunity. And I've already teed up manufacturing partners with a laser cutter and press brake, so think about sheet metal if we need to do that. Think about any kind of custom things you want to do. Like, I'd rather see this thing controlled with stepper motors and timing belts to drive the wheels, because it'll have feedback already built in, and they're very precisely controlled motors. I'd like to put cameras facing in 3 directions, or really 4, so you can see behind you. James Tedder, unacceptable. I'm sorry. Drop and give me 10 push-ups on camera. Real push-ups. Cody, you're also late. I demand 10 push-ups right now.
Sorry, I was working.
Or drop and give me 10. You rusty bucket of bolts. Welcome to Robot Bootcamp. Don't make me do
Mark,
push-ups on camera. What?
You made this thing a Google form. Would it work better if it were just a Google Doc, or maybe a folder where we could drop ideas or something like that, where then we could review and coordinate or consolidate? I'm just looking at that. I don't get to see the form after I submit it, so I'm kind of like.
I'd rather.
Oh, I can change that. You
know what I'm saying?
Would be better.
It's up. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with the doc. Yeah, because we could do component breakdown as well, and more than just design ideas.
Good call, ladies and gentlemen. Look, see, we're collaborating already.
Hey, Mark. Would you like me to contact the FRC team Riptide and see if they would be interested in this? Because they did a magic wheelchair project, and they do a bunch of assistive technologies.
Before you just hold it, is this Nick talking?
This is Nick, yeah.
You need to get them involved in Robot Bootcamp, because then they'll gain access to these other projects, bro. Because other people keep coming to me with design challenges, and I'm not trying to be like the owner of the challenges necessarily, but I'm asking everybody in this thing to get people involved in this, so we can use this as a way to start to communicate and collect all the ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah, I can try. I don't know what their response is as far as the boot camp goes, but if nothing else, I'm sure they would be interested in doing the projects. But yeah, I'll definitely talk
dude,
about
I want them to be good at designing.
They are. They've already gone over that hump, is what I'm saying.
Well, then invite them to Robot Bootcamp so that they can prove that so that they can prove it. Please release your skepticism, I beg you. Don't make me talk to your dad about it again. This is Robot Bootcamp.
Yes, please don't make me program CNC anymore.
God, you unbelievable. I'm stuck. I hope everybody's thinking really, really good right now. Is everybody thinking good?
So my first thought is, what's the scope? What are we, I mean, the video I watched was of a cart being remotely pushed around. Mounted camera for remote videoing. What you're describing seems to be to expand that. Are we looking to expand? We want to start with basics.
Yeah, we're going to start basic plus. We're going to start, it must be able to open door. It must be able to do everything saw in the video, plus open doors and have the iPad. Because we need to pretend that there's nurses at like a nursing station that's centrally located, and they're sending out 4 or 5 or 6 of these carts.
Another thing we could look at.
It should also have a hand sanitizer dispenser.
If you look at Boston Dynamics, they have a robot dog that can open doors, so we can possibly get some ideas from them.
Yeah, but that's a very complicated system. We want to simplify that so that the robot door handle opener is just like a part of the form and function, but doesn't increase like a multiple degree of freedom arm. You just want something that like is in the spot where it needs to be and works. That handle is extremely versatile, and we don't need that much versatility.
I mean, you're looking at an entranceway, 32, 36, whatever inches wide, and you're looking at a handle being at an offset of 2 to 6 inches in from the door, and saying, how can I center my cart on this doorway and have an arm that can basically do this, or maybe do an arc to open that handle. So how do we position the robot properly in the doorway? How to, once the robot's positioned, use its apparatus to go and open that door? And then what kind of drive, and then how does it, and then is it a spring-loaded door? Are they manually opened and closed? These are all questions that have to be answered. Are we fighting against an automatic door closer when this door opens or not? Because that gets way more complicated than if it's a door that opens and a second pusher to push it, gently open to let the thing drive through. And is this kind of making sense? Because we're talking about, an industrial, a public space. What is, what is opening the store like, and how do we need to replicate that? Thoughts? I mean, I'm just asking questions. How does a human go through this thing so we can make a robot go through it?
Yeah, and that was my question as far as scope creep, or what's the scope in that. What they showed in the video was simply an RC vehicle. Yeah, it's a table with wheels that you can control remotely. But going through a door on its own, that's a fairly complex maneuver. And it's not impossible. It's something I certainly would be challenged by. But I'd want to start with basics and work toward that as a goal. Other things, the level of the table, the wheels themselves, do they detach? So that the cart can be used in other places or can just simply be slapped on someplace. Those are the kinds of ideas I'd want to start with as far as this Google Doc. What are the scope of the various components that we want to add on to this thing?
All right, so I'm going to
narrow it down
this.
to a particular priority. Here's where we want to start. Here's where we want to go. What's first? What's second? What's third? So that's what that's kind of the way I'm thinking. That's the way I sort of lay out all my projects. Is I get all my ideas together, and you guys certainly. I've heard a number of ideas already that sound interesting, especially being on the computer side, on the programming side, computer vision, sensors. Yeah, all for it.
Okay, so I put the link in there.
We get a separate section for questions that we could input and get response on the doc at a later date.
Yeah. I will do that.
So when you say hold an iPad for patients, does that mean you want it on a secondary apparatus, not just simply placed on and off the cart's pre-existing tabletop?
Correct. It needs to be mounted.
It needs to be mounted and extendable so it can go out to somebody and come back? Does it need to be able to pivot if necessary?
I'm not going to make that decision for you. I want to see what you come up with. You guys need to have fun with this and think about what you would want walking into your room if you're sitting there dying of COVID-19 and a robot walks in with your dinner and an iPad to see your family.
Mark, what if we had like so we're using an iPad, obviously, to be able to see where we're traveling and everything, right?
Well, no,
You'd be able to see where what?
We're using the iPad camera system to see where we're traveling, correct?
No, you have different cameras that handle navigation. The iPad is purely for feedback to and from the patient.
Okay. Sounds a little bit complicated. What if we did it to where it could be slightly voice command? So like if it's stationed in a room, say I need a drink of water, I don't know, but like I'm just thinking through things here.
Get your idea out. Keep going. What are you trying to say?
So is this for nurses or for patients? Or both?
It's to help nurses not have to go into the room so that they don't overexpose themselves to the virus.
Okay.
Like guys, I promised UF Health that we would get this done within a week. So you need to stop asking so many questions and start designing, and then ask questions after you start to go through your design. My personal opinion on the matter, but keep asking questions. Go ahead.
Okay, I think you just answered. I'm just thinking.
This is not a hard problem. It just needs to be accomplished. And even if you just want to focus on one component of it, if you're like, I'm going to make the best iPad mount in the world.
I think I can try to do a design for the handle, something to open up the doors. I got a few ideas.
Aid just said that he wants to work on the door handle opener. And guys, for the record, I'm also going to be taking this design challenge with you guys. I'm not just going to be telling you what to do on this one. You better believe I'm going to be building this thing based on y'all's design this week in the shop. And then I'm going to be bragging about you guys all over the internet when UF Health drops an order for 15 of these bad boys next week. That's the goal, right? We have to fund the robot revolution, and the revolution will be televised.
Well, sounds like I need to go do some recon and let's go to US Health's website and see if they have any tours of, I don't know, maternity suites where they may show you how awesome the rooms are and what the heck does an open the door look like? Is there video online somewhere we can use to answer questions?
All right, are we going to conclude this edition of Robot Bootcamp and get to work?
I think maybe so.
And I just want to let y'all know that I'm starting my design with a wheelchair base. And I'll take pictures of it and put it in the document tonight.
Hey, Mark, any chance you could just get pictures or of the frame we're working around? The tables, are they just?
Yeah, I'm going to have an actual unit dropped off at the shop this week, and I'll take dimensional drawings and post a 3D model.
So wait, you said wheelchair. That's typically for a patient, but you're talking about also having
No, James. This is like a hover round wheelchair called a Quickie, and it's got a magnesium alloy frame, and it goes up to 20 miles an hour.
Oh, that makes sense.
We're going to get that food to those patients now.
Right now, Jim, that's right. And so we need to have a slosh prevention, like gravity actuated device that keeps the drinks in place.
I have a big giant magnet underneath that just magnetizes the drinks and they don't spill.
Cody, you're gonna have to talk up, bro. This is Robot
sorry.
Boot Camp. You cannot mumble into your microphone.
My microphone's sitting kind of far away. We could basically just have like a giant magnet to just magnetize the drinks down.
How do you put the magnets in the drink cups, bro?
You
Poison.
Cup holders.
bottom.
Use metal cups.
That is also true.
Disney cups.
Like even like I don't like necessarily the idea of magnet because you need to be able to use other drinking devices, I guess, other than, so you need things like plastic or even like a soda can. That you can't have that because it's not magnetic, they're aluminum. So I don't think a magnet would necessarily work.
Yeah, the cups are usually plastic for the most part. I'd probably do some sort of clamping hub instead, as far as that goes. Or if there isn't any bumps, and we don't have to worry about that. But again, it's a question that we need to get answered.
Even like if you take a turn.
There's still the
Slosh.
chance of you accidentally running into someone or running into the wall. So I'd say we'd need bumpers and with the cup holder.
Well,
I
you
feel like the cup holder should like be deep enough to hold the cup so that like if it turns or like shakes, it won't spill.
Well, even that, like,
or give them sippy cups.
How are you going to get the cup out?
I mean, there
The
will be
robot
enough
needs to be
space,
able to
just
give
like
the
maybe
cup
like
to the
halfway.
patient.
The patient's taking it out, right? Like the robot's not serving it.
I wouldn't think so. I think the robot would serve it. You just have a robotic arm.
It's just a transportation. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I think the
So, like,
patient
they
can
kinda- yeah.
grab it. So you just make an indent, is what you're saying, and the cup fits in. But it's far enough so that it can't tip over or spill for the most part.
Mhm.
We can make
And
a
so they can also
robot
grab
that is able to carry or give the person their food with an arm because they might not be able to get up and get it from the robot.
But they're still receiving it, right? So they still have to pick it up at some point, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't have to get up, I don't think, either.
Some
Yeah.
of them
Drive
may
it
not
close
be
enough.
able to get up.
Yeah,
I'm
like
saying I
what
don't think
the
you have to get up. You just drive it close enough, and then as long as they can reach their arm out, yeah.
what the guys in the video did, it looks like, is they kind of made it look like curved like a C, so it can like fit under maybe the bed, and then be able to like serve it to them like right on like in front of them. So we could do that,
Hey.
something like that.
Hey guys, I gotta run. I love this conversation. Keep talking. Aid, you're the host, so you can keep the party going.
Normally at the hospital.
You guys enjoy this, all right? You're crushing it. I can't wait to see
Thanks,
you
Mark.
design.
How high off the ground are they?
All right.
The tables?
They're
I'm just
usually
wondering, like, for
adjustable
reference, because
to the-
I'd
So
say
we're being told
3 or
they
4
could-
feet.
I don't know, like, that's
There's a lot of questions we need answered, and I think Mark is going to put that in his doc as far as just labeling stuff, and we'll get an answer from UF Health at some point.
Yeah.
So I think the confines on this whole thing is whether or not you actually have to use the pre-existing carts. Because the pre-existing carts are nurses' stations. They're things designed for a average height person to use as a working platform at standing. So Mark's original constraints were it drives into the room after it opens the door, and hopefully can position an iPad where the person can give a feedback survey. And a secondary idea, if the iPad is also how their family communicates with them in a way, that's also really cool because it keeps the human connection of, keeping the spirit up while you're in this really crappy situation. My question about if you have to tie into that cart, and y'all have brought some excellent ideas and questions about, serving product to them. Do we have to have a way to lower the platform down to the height? Because if it's a stationary bed, it's one height. If it's a gurney that's height adjustable mechanically with a motor in it, that's a whole nother thing. But we're talking about something that's designed to be at the elbow bent height of a 5'6" person.
You also have hospital beds that are like raised or like,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
we have no
So
idea what this person.
if this
we have no
person's
idea-
in bed completely lying down and
Yeah.
the button, because I've been to a hospital very recently. I've seen like where the button systems are all the way across the wall and they can't reach it. So they can't necessarily move their bed unless someone's there. So you need to be able to have that adjustable. That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's why I'm asking how far we're tied into having to use the pre-existing desks versus is it better just to design something from the ground up that allows you to move the desk up and down in addition to opening the door and driving in?
So I don't really see why we need to open the door. I don't know if that's realistic. Again, we need to get it answered, but that also adds a lot of complexity.
It does. I think they want to keep the doors closed because we're trying to keep doors closed as much as possible to avoid, airborne spread when people cough and sneeze.
I figured the nurse could open the door as long as they don't enter the room, or is that unrealistic?
That's unrealistic.
Yeah,
It's
it'll be
unrealistic.
really
Okay.
close. They're trying to
The
not
idea is
get
50
close at
feet.
all.
Not even step on that floor at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that means also there's going to probably most likely be other doors to that specific room. So either way, you're going to have to go through doors.
Would it be possible to put like reflective tape for the robot to follow it, and then we just have a completely autonomous robot, and they input the number that they need to go to, the number of the room they need to go to, and it just follows the lines to the room?
Well, is it going to be everywhere in the hospital, like the tape on the ground?
It can be designated to each floor.
Maybe. What if there was a way to allow like the nurses to easily be able to program the like blueprints of the building into the robot, so it has this 3D essentially a Google Maps of the entire building, and it can go anywhere and calculate distances and stuff. That's a little bit more on the complicated side.
Something like that
it's
could
really complicated.
Could come in time, but I think what they want now is something that the nurses can actually control and take to the rooms. But that is a good idea. Like that'd be cool.
That's what I was saying. Is like later on, just have it completely autonomous because they just have to put it in, and then they're done.
Yeah.
Well, you could also look at possibly as far as easy to manage and change and update. Dropping RFID chips on the doors. So even if you had a reflective tape, pair of lanes per se centered down most corridors, and if you wanted to use reflective tape to view your door opening to be able to orient yourself and figure that out at a certain distance, just going to the right door, what's another cheap, easy way to do that?
Another thing is, what kind of parts will we have access to?
We don't have the specification on that. How much is it going to be stock? How much is going to be built? And what's the build cost? Another consideration that hasn't been thrown out at all.
This needs to be something that's cheap and also relatively cheap and easy to use, because like nurses, first time I drove a robot, I'm going to assume that not a lot of people in that kind of field are necessarily going to be messing with robots every single day, like one of us. So while we might know how to control something pretty easily, they're going to be like, okay, what do all these buttons do? And we can't have that. It has to be something very easily. Maybe we can also do like a voiceover system that teaches them when they first start up how to control the robot, what the basic mechanics or whatever it does.
I think we just need to have make just the controls super easy. And for like the arm, we need to have it set at a program point so the robot can see the arm, and all you have to do is press a button for it to open it.
Well, the only arm would
trying
be
to figure out how to
door.
grab the thing.
Yeah, that's what she's saying for the door, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone else have edit access on the Google Doc?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No.
I forgot to do that. I'll message him right now.
We can all just press the request edit access button.
I was going to say, I'm on the Google Doc right now.
Can you edit the like type and stuff on it?
Oh. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a button right there. Request edit access.
That's why I said like everyone push that, send them a dozen emails.
Yeah, it'd be better if you just sends another link.
We can easily just go in and just change our permissions.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, does he want to bless it 1,000 times, or does he want to just send it, cut and paste into a new document and bless it one time?
That is also true.
I'm just, there's 10 of us now. It could be 25 tomorrow. Who knows?
So what do you guys think would be like the first step into actually making this thing? Would it be like the drivetrain or making something to lift the tray?
I'd say drivetrain,
Yeah.
so we can get a good base to work with before we
Mhm.
start messing with any other components.
Yeah.
I was just like originally thinking some sort of box with wheels. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, well, Mark said he has a drivetrain.
Oh
He has
yeah,
a
did he
wheelchair
say
base.
yeah, wheelchair.
Yeah, he has 2 of them in the shop. So I would assume that means we have to use those. As far as unless we want to like use wood, but I'd rather use something he already has.
Right
so he
now
said,
we can just kind of design our own parts, I guess, and then whatever drivetrain we go with, we can easily just add holes where we need to in order to mount it.
well, I mean the drivetrain, it does affect it a lot. If you're doing a wheelchair, there's not many mounting places, for example, even if you take off the main structure. So I think we should break it into subcomponents and consider from there. So there
So
might be
the
something.
wheelchair that he's talking about is the bottom of a electric wheelchair. It's basically just a block, and it's got wheels and motors on the inside. And I believe it has a metal plate on the top.
Okay.
Do you
I
know what
don't
it's
know
called?
if it opens or closes.
I think it would help if we have a photo. Of
Yeah,
that,
like,
'cause,
do you know
I
what it's
don't
called?
really know what he's talking about. Is this looking
I
more
think
like a
it's-
traditional
yeah.
wheelchair or like some completely
I think he
different?
said it was
super
it was
motorized?
motorized.
Well, I know it's motorized, but like,
He
does
said
it
he
look
will
like a
send us.
wheelchair?
He'll send us design prints.
Okay.
Later. He said, real quick, everyone refresh. Make sure you have edit access. It worked for me. Just refresh your Google Doc page and see if it worked for you.
Hold on. Yeah, I think I have edit access.
So you guys
I
do.
have edit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have edit.
So I suggest right now start off by breaking into subcomponents because and not just randomly listing stuff. Of course.
Do you want me to here? Is
Let's
there
just-
a way where we can make? All right.
Let's
we're
just
gonna-
all put our ideas of what we want to put on the robot first, and then I guess whenever we have the next meeting, we can go over subcategories, or we can meet again during the week
Yeah.
Here,
and
I'm
break
gonna
everything
put
into
some
categories.
headings. I'm gonna put some headings so that it will you'll have the basic idea. This is, I guess we can say we'll have base, and then I don't know where y'all going, but maybe the
Yes. The reason I wanted to kind of not decide on subcomponents, but get a general list so that we all have, like, we're not making completely different things. So I think it's important to decide, are we going for a vertical lift? And if so, what is that going to look like? And, at the dry base, is it going to be that wheelchair base? Because I don't want to go make an FCC robot if we're building something that's way larger, building onto something that's way larger. So I think yes, we should get all the ideas out there, but I think we should decide today instead of coming back and tomorrow or whatever, because that's an entire day wasted.
What if we just did something simple where it's just like this giant vertical shaft to where it's like inside the box and you just essentially have this table that can go up and down?
What I was going to say, unless if we have access to like pneumatics and stuff, that we try to stay away from scissor lifts.
I think we will have access.
But okay, so pneumatics are again adding another layer of complexity I don't think we need. And as far as like scissor lifts, you can do them right. It just like everyone's scissor lifts were shaky in FTC this year because they built them wrong. They're building with smaller material, but you can do scissor lifts.
All right.
So,
Mark
guys,
says, hang on. Mark says, put a dashed line between each student
Mhm.
input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if we had the camera system set up to where it's like, I guess you could say like a pigeon, to where it can see everything around it.
Like
Well,
a
I-
360.
I think
Yeah, like
Mark
It's
has
more
the
like a
idea of
360 video versus just like camera here, and you're having to look at two different things, where it's just essentially, I guess you could say, a panoramic view.
yeah.
Like the 360 cameras.
Yeah. What if we had that as well as just like what's directly in front of the robot, so you can kind of see what's around? Because I think you should really maybe have like two different camera systems to where you can see what's in front of you, or if that's just too complicated.
well, you're gonna at that point you're gonna run into
Yeah.
overloading the data of your
Mhm.
Wi-Fi connection, because those 360 cameras. I mean,
Yeah.
there are two different ways to do them. One of them just uses two fisheye lenses going the opposite way, which are obviously more economical. The higher quality ones actually use 6 different cameras and
Yeah.
a secondary software system to blend it all together. So that's a lot of data, unless you're going to put all that on the robot and then have it just send off a singular stream back to the viewer iPad station, which is probably, if you're going to do it, would be probably apropos, because you want to keep the network traffic manageable.
Yeah.
And then we have the question of, is each robot its own network?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about having 20, 30 robots operating in a on a floor of a hospital, how are we doing with IT traffic and control bandwidth and those kind of problems and challenges?
So the cameras that are being used, are they like actual cameras or like something connected
That's up to us.
to an iPhone?
That's okay.
No idea.
Do we actually have anyone here who's like more software than mechanical? Or
Jim?
like
I kind of am here.
I'm both, but
okay. I just
A
wanted to
little
make
bit,
sure,
but
like,
I
because
suck at programming.
yeah.
Jim.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the cameras are up to us. Optimal would be, I would say, 2 180s instead of doing 4
Yeah.
cameras. However, how that would look out.
A front and a back view.
Yeah. Honestly, like if it was me driving, I would just use the front, and then you figure out what the rooms are going to look like, because they should all be the same.
That's what I was thinking.
But as far as simplicity goes, you might as well do all angles.
Well,
possible.
the only reason I suggested all angles is like for the people driving to see what's going on around them. So like if there's people in the way, they can maybe steer to avoid it, or do just keep it simple and just have it.
well, I mean, you also have to realize, consider that, there probably isn't any extra people in the room because these folks are in quarantine. But has something changed? Is there, they knock a pillow on the floor that's in the path of the robot cart? I mean, those are other things to make sure that the operator, the nurse, can view. And then another question that popped into my head through all these discussions is, for someone who's not used to remotely operating something via video, is a 180-degree fisheye camera too disorienting for them for an average person who's not used to working on this kind of stuff, to be able to move a robot remotely through a space?
I think it would be.
So the
I think
question
it
is,
would be.
maybe it's 3 cameras, maybe it's 2 180s for 360 to view, and a typical front camera for driving. And you have 2 video feeds, and one that's the 360, and then one is the drive feed, just to make, or ability to flip back and forth, so that you can allow the user interface, because user interface is ultimately what's probably going to make something that's an awesome machine successful or not successful.
And this remote control, I thought about it, like, what if we made it to where it's kind of like built in What if we had it to where it's like almost like an app inside a phone or a tablet, to where
Yeah,
they can both steer and see what's going on, like the camera view, and then they can just have the buttons on the side. And I think that would actually be easier than like a gaming controller, because
So control with the phone. And
yeah, like control with the phone, like just touch screen, like you can just go forward or turn.
if you be limiting your user control though, and like it might be a little simpler, but I don't see how that's a lot simpler
Yeah.
because you're still pressing, forward, sideways. I think it might even be easier to have the sticks as far as turning goes.
That's not what I was saying. Like having a virtual joystick on the iPad, but just like keeping it simple to where you have both. So you're not trying to have like a camera and a controller connected so that they can see at the same time. Have it built in as one. That's why I'm suggesting using like a tablet or something.
Okay.
I would say we also have to think about anything that goes into a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
How is sanitation managed? So they already are using, well, we assume they're already using iPads in the hospital and they have sanitation protocols for dealing with that. How many little creases and crevices are in a game controller? And how does that get cleaned regularly? Because remember, we're talking about things getting cleaned every 20 minutes or more.
Especially if these things are going into rooms with people who have cases of COVID.
Yes.
When they come out, they're not necessarily going to be completely sanitary at all. So how would we deal with that? Because I think that's one of the biggest problems we have.
Yeah, that is a problem. I mean, if someone sneezed on the floor and now this robot drove through it, what's the protocols to make sure that we're not tracking, pathogen throughout the drive path of this, robotic vehicle?
So how do we make the robot sanitize itself?
Well, I don't know sanitize itself, but what's the protocol? Is there a robot sanitation station that, the thing has to, does it have a way to, on the back end of the robot as it exits the room to be able to sanitize what it just drove over? And do we have a parking station that it goes into that it can then be sanitized before it goes out to visit someone else? I don't know, I'm just
Yeah, that's a really big problem because like if the robot, like if the patient touches the robot, maybe like when it's exiting, maybe somebody touches the robot there, and yeah, I can see how there could be a lot of problems with that. If we're ever gonna probably sanitize it, it would probably have to be in the room like before it leaves, because once it leaves, like anything's up to like spreading.
So we might have to create a self-sanitizing system. That's complicated because you've got this robot, right? So you can't exactly have a Lysol bottle inside of it, and that's not even going to cut it, right?
Well, something we want to put on the list, but right now you've got nurses and doctors walking in the room that are stepping everywhere, that are carrying it back out onto the other floors. They don't like step on sterile pads, so certainly would be an improvement that we could look at and probably take into consideration, like sealed boxes, that are easily wiped down.
Well, I mean, that was my thought, Jim, of, if the robot, drives over, mucus that's used on the floor, if when you go to exit the room, if you have a sanitizing sweeper that's on the trailing end of the robot, that can basically, even if I drive over getting, contaminant on the floor, the last thing that touches, up an inch or two behind it is wiping the floor until the entire robot goes into a safe place for it to be completely sanitized again.
Yeah, it would be an improvement to what they've got now, which is people walking in and out.
Even if they're walking in and out with booties on and throwing the booties away regularly, but I mean, the booty problem is going to be the same problem that the mask problem is right now. Materials are going to become a problem as we go, and sourcing it.
Have you guys ever seen like those clean machines that just like go over and like essentially mop the floors? That they got these brush rollers underneath. It's like cleaning the floor behind them as they drive along.
Mm-hmm.
They can both be like autonomous, or like even you've got these things in supermalls where you just got a guy on it as he's riding through and just cleaning the floors. What if you had something like that?
Could you maybe find a video and post it? Do a little bit of
Yeah,
explanation.
I'll try and give you an idea. Hold on.
I was thinking something maybe like almost kind of like a hazmat suit for the robot. Maybe just like some parts that could be taken out, like just maybe like plastic wrap over some parts that'll be like custom fit to just be able to swapped out and thrown away on areas that could be like commonly touched.
That's a good idea. Like you couldn't do the wheels. Well, I mean, I guess you could wrap the wheels, probably.
If it's like really really thin.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Are you saying in addition or to add?
No, like having that like underneath as like the sanitation system as it comes out. So you've got like the wheels on the side, but like this thing's underneath, just cleaning.
I would say that's too complex for the build time we have. They would have to like purchase that and use it first.
No, I'm saying like something like that that cleans.
Well, but I mean, yeah.
I'm not saying putting it on.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying just trying to create that in our time frame.
I know.
Along with the rest of the stuff, I don't think is doable. That's just because we're gonna keep everything as simple as possible.
There's a difference between doable and contaminating other people. Like if our robot is causing other people to become sick, they're not going to use it.
Yeah, we find other options. I'm saying let's keep considering. That's an idea. I agree with you. That's an idea. I would say let's keep talking about more stuff though.
See, my thought was more something of if you can mist and have something like a paint roller that rolls behind the whole thing, that just wipes the path it just ran over. Because we're not trying to buff the floor clean, we're just trying to put something that's going to rupture the cell membranes of the virus on the virus that we just tracked over the floor. We look at the practice, like how do we get rid of viruses? How do we get rid of anything? We make the outside cell of it break in half so that it dies. So what do we need to put on it to do that?
There's still like the transfer from the human to the robot as far as giving it the food or whatever. So that would solve like the floor, right? But I think there's still the rest of it.
I mean, the rest of the robot is still an issue, and this becomes a point where you have to say we've thought of a bunch of considerations beyond take my iPad and put it in that room, because that was the initial challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So as we define the project, because the question is how many commas for more criteria are necessary.
What if instead of having a cleaning system, we had a germ prevention system? So essentially, like it would. I'm thinking these fan blowers, like we can you kind of see them sometimes on the inside of stores. They're blowing the air out. What if we put like mini ones of those on the sides so that it blows air constantly on the sides of the robot, to where the germs, if they do get on, they can't get on because the fan is preventing the particles from ever settling on the surfaces of the robot.
That could probably work to some degree, but it's still not a guarantee, I would say, because like, what if somebody touches it? I don't know. That might be something that the hospital like needs to do. Maybe if they're gonna designate maybe like one person to clean the robots, or how they're gonna do that. I'm not quite sure how we could do that. That's definitely gonna be a challenge, but I think definitely first we need to think about like the drivetrain and how it's gonna open doors and how it's gonna deliver food. But definitely something to think about.
How big are we trying to make this thing?
I think it should stay inside the footprint. I mean, my personal opinion is it shouldn't get much bigger.
Much bigger footprint than 24.
Yeah, I was gonna say it shouldn't be much bigger than a hospital tray, which is 24 by 18. So more or less. I'm just rough guessing, just based on.
Yeah, because it has to like get through doors and inside like the hospital bed. We don't know how small like the areas can get.
Wheelchair accessible.
Yeah.
You're wheelchair accessible. You're at least 32 inches wide for the doorways.
And then also, are we gonna make something that can like lift the food to different heights? Because I think that would be important.
Yeah,
Because
that's what
we don't.
said
Yeah.
earlier.
Well, I mean, it really, again, it's the question goes back to: are we 100% tied into modifying pre-existing trays? Because at that point, it becomes, if it's a solid 4-foot piece of pipe with a base on the bottom and a table on the top,
Mm-hmm.
that's confining. If we say, hey, let's do 2 pieces of pipe inside each other with a rack and pinion drive with a simple motor to be able to have 18 inches of travel or something like that, then we're whether or not we use the top and we mount it on top of a new vertical that allows you to telescope up and down in a relatively dependable way. It's really about how. There's so many questions to ask, and so we just have to propose ideas and go, hey, this is a design idea. You who wants this product, is this worth spending a lot of brain power to figure out or not?
What if we had, I think we should also make it to where it's somehow insulated. So that so a patient's going to want a hot meal if at all possible. Let's say the nurses don't know how to work this thing. It might take them who knows how long to even get the meal to them.
Mm-hmm.
In that amount of time, the food can become cold and you're not necessarily going to want to eat it, especially if you're feeling really sick or you're trying to have something like chicken noodle soup. If you don't have, like, if they can put it into some sort of container that's also on the lift, but it's like it's insulated until it like comes out.
So I'm kind of, yeah, that makes sense. But I'm kind of thinking of just having a platform like a table with maybe
What
2
about a
cup holders,
conveyor belt?
and then having them be able to put the tray on the table. So not necessarily having the table to actually be the tray itself. That way we're actually like be able to change it out and then stop preventing germs. So maybe the insulator that you said could be just with the actual tray itself and not part of the robot and not part of like the table.
Maybe. I'm going to put it down anyway. All right, guys, I got to go.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow if we meet tomorrow or whenever next we meet.
Probably. I might be able to do tomorrow. Thanks.
Right.
Bye.
Bye. You guys want to call it a night?
I mean, I think we have a lot of ideas to possibly work into a multifaceted solution.
Yeah.
I think we are asking some really excellent questions. And I
Do
think
we want to set any goals for tomorrow, like a drivetrain, design, concepts around the drivetrain, something like that? Or do we just want to continue to conceptualize and put ideas together?
I can work on a design for like the table, for the table to be able to put on a tray and maybe possibly something to open up doors.
I think we need a lot of questions answered as far as knowing which components we're going to need. But I think no matter what, we're going to have a drivetrain, right? So
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
it might be helpful to just start on that. Like opening doors, again, probably necessary, and holding the tray, obviously necessary. But all the other sanitation stuff, we don't know, right? So
Yeah.
I think we got to like list priorities as far as component breakdown, like drivetrain, tray holder, door opener, in no order, just in general. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there
For sure.
was also a request, and it was not very clear in how Mark kind of presented it, of a way to present the iPad for data collection for certain, how are you feeling today? How's your pain compared to yesterday? Because that's what they want to do. They're like, are you getting better? Are you getting worse? But is that iPad supposed to, iPad, sit on top of the tray table? Or is it supposed to be on a apparatus that can tilt it, extend it, and bring it up or down to the person's ability to sit up or not sit up as this tray approaches them?
I feel like shouldn't it just be maybe just propped up, just mounted on so they can just see it. It's facing one direction at all times.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that would almost be like, okay, so here, if you have an apparatus in the tray that the iPad clicks in, and instead of trying to, make it do all this crazy stuff, if you simply say that, okay, we decided that we're going to be able to make the whole tray top go up or down to come to you, and you can drive it to the person, that's relatively simple.
Yeah.
Way more simpler than having a 4 degree of movement, arm to hold a pre-existing item. And it kind of solves a couple of those problems altogether, at the same time. Again, it goes back to, are we making stuff to clamp onto a pre-existing cart, or are we building a whole new cart from scratch? That basically fits inside the footprint requirements of the existing cart, because we know that works through the space of the hospital.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely going to be a challenge and a lot to think about.
I think that's probably wraps up for me, at least.
Yep.
So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish dinner. Sorry for eating in front of you guys. And I'm going to call my father-in-law, who was a nurse at the VA for 38 years, and ask for his ideas.
Awesome.
Because I got a source, someone who did this for a really long time.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll reconvene tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
All right. Bye, guys.